Good evening. Call to order this June 17th meeting of the Winston-Salem City Council and ask the City Secretary to call the roll, please.
Councilmember Larson.
Present.
Councilmember Clark.
Here.
Councilmember Bessie.
Here.
Councilmember Scipio.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Burke.
Here.
Councilmember Adams.
Here.
Councilmember McIntosh.
Here.
Councilmember Taylor.
Present.
Thank you. Would you please join the City Council and me in a moment of silence? Thank you. And would you please join the City Council and me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Our Sergeant at Arms tonight is Lieutenant Horace Bryant. Lieutenant, thank you for being with us tonight. Maybe item H1, please.
Item H1, proclamation declaring June 17th through the 23rd, 2019 as National Pollinator Week. Whereas the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina became the 75th Bee City USA in 2018, and whereas pollinator species provide significant environmental benefits that are necessary for maintaining healthy, diverse urban and suburban ecosystems. And whereas pollination plays a vital role for the trees and plants in our community, enhancing our quality of life and creating recreational and economic development opportunities. And whereas for decades the City of Winston-Salem has managed urban landscape and public lands that include municipal parks and greenways, as well as wildlife habitats. And whereas the City of Winston-Salem supports National Pollinator Week and will raise awareness through a pollinator event at the Winston-Salem Fairgrounds Farmers Market, an interactive educational tool available on the city website, and installing Bee City USA signage at 3 city parks, a part of Bee City USA requirements. Now therefore I, J. Allen Joines, Mayor of the City of Winston-Salem, North Carolina, do hereby proclaim the week of June 17th through the 23rd, 2019 as National Pollinator Week, given under my hand and seal this 17th day of June, 2019.
Thank you. Council members, thank you for letting me do this. I wanted to try to bring some attention to this issue. It sounds a little bit trite, but it's important for not only the city, but for our country and our state. So we wanted to try to bring some attention to this. I think Johnny Taylor and I think Jennifer Christen here to receive this.
Good evening, Mayor Joines, Mayor Pro Tem, other esteemed members of the council.
Good evening.
We're grateful for the opportunity to recognize Pollinator Week. Pollinators are important, and without them, our food chain is affected, and we've done a lot of work to try to bring attention to this. And we also have an event taking place Saturday at the fairground beginning at 8 a.m., and it'll run till 11. We'll have individuals there that will bring fresh honey, and there'll be games that we can play and learn about pollinators. And we're just excited because we're a Bee City now, the 75th Bee City in the nation, and we're going to continue working through our sustainability office to try to bring the knowledge about the importance of pollinators to our city. So thank you again.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. We have item H2, please.
Item H2, recognition of Mayor Pro Tempore Vivian H. Burke by Senator Paul Lowe. A senatorial statement. Whereas Vivian H. Burke has served as the council member of the Northeast Ward of Winston-Salem, North Carolina since 1977 and served as Mayor Pro Tem 6 times and was the first African-American elected official to sit as an at-large member on the Board of Directors of the North Carolina League of Municipalities. And whereas Vivian H. Burke has rendered distinguished service in her community through participation in numerous and diverse volunteer organizations, including the Public Safety Committee Chair and past President of the Tourism Development Authority, the North Carolina Mental Health Board, the Piedmont System Health Board, Transportation Advisory Council, the Piedmont Triad Partnership, and the State Banking Commission as the first African American female member, in addition to being one of the founding members of the Black Political Awareness League and the North Carolina Black Elected Municipal Officials. And whereas Vivian H. Burke helped to create the Burke Join Scholarship, which helps deserving students to attend Forsyth Technical Community College, the Vivian H. Burke and Logan Burke Endowment at Winston-Salem State University, and helped to create the Vivian Burke Scholarship at Elizabeth City State University, and the Logan Burke Endowment at Grace Presbyterian Church. Made 3 marketing and communication videos chronicling the history of African American businesses, churches, and schools in Winston-Salem. Developed the What's in a Name book used by the Winston-Salem Forsyth County School System, and helped create the Ray Agnew Jr., Williams Andrews, and the Housing Authority of Winston-Salem scholarships. And whereas Vivian H. Burke also volunteers for the Hart Fund, the United Negro College Fund, the Patterson Avenue Glade Street YWCA, and the March of Dimes, as well as the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools, and is an active member of Grace Presbyterian Church, where she serves as an elder and a trustee. And whereas Vivian H. Burke has been the recipient of numerous awards, such as the Order of the Longleaf Pine and a Lifetime Achievement Award from the Urban League, and was honored with the creation of the Vivian H. Burke Business and Economic Scholarship established at Winston-Salem State University, and received honorary doctorate degrees from Livingstone College, Wake Forest University, Winston-Salem State University, and Elizabeth City State University. Now, therefore, Vivian H. Burke deserves to be recognized and honored for her many years of public service and contributions to improving the lives of those in her community. In witness whereof, the undersigned certifies that the foregoing statement was read in the Senate and placed upon the Journal on the 12th day of June, 2019.
We're honored to have with us tonight Senator Paul Lowe. Senator Lowe, if you would like to make the official presentation.
Thank you, Mayor Jones, and to this council and to our honoree. Thank you. I thought, not long, but I thought about it, and I had to do something, because when I looked at how long our honoree had served, I graduated from high school in 1977. And that's a few days ago. And that's a long time. I look at the work that all of you city council persons perform, and I've said to some of you, every time I run into James, I said I couldn't do what you do. What you all do for this community and what you all do to make things better for the citizens of this community is a wonderful thing. And to think that we have someone in our midst that did it for over 40 years. So I want to say thank you to her for her friendship, for the things that we have learned from her, and for how she has certainly been a friend to me. So this is for you.
Thank you. I am indeed grateful to the senator for thinking about me in this way. When I was in Raleigh on the 12th, I thought only the senator was going to say something, but the representative, also Montgomery, and his assistant is here tonight, Ms. Booker, Carolyn Brooks. I want you to know that I could not stand here had the Northeast Ward residents and friends of the ward did not have confidence in me. I want you to know I can stand here forever if I really want to. I really can, because when you stay at the grassroots and they see you every day, 2 and 3 times a day, you don't have to campaign 2 or 3 weeks to try to get elected. I'm so glad that the things that God has done for me, when He shed His blood to save me, and when He used His power to raise me, He has made me what I am. I could never take the credit. And I want you to know, the many years I've served, I've had some good elected officials. They have been there with mostly every issue I've initiated passed. So I'm grateful to God for being here. I couldn't take it alone by myself, Pastor. And I was so pleased that you wanted to do this. When people come to my office, it is full of everything. In fact, I never locked my door, but the city manager must have told someone to keep my door locked because I have so many valuable things that they could go fast on eBay. Is that what y'all call it? So I found that my door was locked, and they said, well, this is coming from someone else. So, Mr. City Manager, thank you for making sure those valuable things are taken care of. I know that all of us love this city. And when I hear people come down and say they love this city, and I tell them not as much as I do. I have given the 42 years, and you all can count. If you can't count from 0 to 100, you're in big trouble. And I got elected, and it was initiated or installed when I was 43 years old. So when you put the numbers together, you know how God has blessed me. Not too many people at my age can think as fast as I can think, and until my arch failed, move as fast as I can move. That is because God selected me to do this, not me. So to all of you, the 240-some thousand people in this city, I have loved you from the bottom of my heart. I continue to love you. And I want you to know that I'm always here for you. Now, Mayor and members of the council, I'm not sure that I'm going to stay for the whole meeting. I've been dealing with this, my voice, you can tell. There's so much in the air. But I came and I got ready, Pastor, because I knew you had planned this. And before you leave, those flowers that you presented at the reception in Raleigh, Miss Bradshaw has put them on a table down there, and they're still blooming. So nice. May God bless all of you, and thank you.
Thank you again, Senator Lowe. We're always honored to have you here, and congratulations, Councilmember Burke. Tonight's agenda of the City Council is comprised of two parts. The general agenda, which will begin with the consideration of items related to the fiscal year 2019-2020 budget for the City of Winston-Salem, and the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda have been unanimously recommended by a committee of the City Council or are being submitted in accordance with established city procedure. There will be no discussion on the items on this agenda unless a council member so requests, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and considered individually. Items not removed from the consent agenda will be enacted with one motion. This meeting is being televised live tonight on TV 13, and it will be replayed on Tuesday at 9 a.m. and again Wednesday at 9 p.m. Of course, copies of our agenda as well as videos of previous meetings are always available online at the city's website, and just click Watch on City Watch Meetings Online options. Councilmember staff informs me that we want to remove item C5 from the consent agenda and refer it back to the Housing General Government Committee. Councilmember Adams, are there any other items council members want to remove?
I just want to speak to C3.
You want it removed?
No, just to speak.
Okay, we can approve
Yeah,
it now. Come
yeah.
back to it. All right. So motion on the consent agenda.
Move for approval.
Thank you. Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor indicate by voting yes. Those opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. And I recognize Councilmember Scipio for a comment on C3 then. Yes, Councilmember
Yes.
Scipio.
C3 is, I just want to say that I'm so supportive of this purchase or proposed purchase of our city property. It signifies African Americans reinvesting in their own neighborhood again. It's a return of that. And I think it's so significant that we are again seeing African Americans come back to our neighborhoods and doing major investments. So, Mayor, at this time, I move for approval.
Actually, we approved it
Okay.
in the balance.
Oh,
sir.
you did?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you, Councilmember
Thank
Sipigo.
you.
Thank you very much. All right, now we'll go back to the general agenda. The first order of business will be a public hearing on the proposed budget. And when this public hearing is called, persons in the council chamber who wish to be heard on the budget and come forward to the microphone and give your name and address for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Council members have been certainly furnished with a staff report on the budget, and the Finance Committee has held numerous hearings on that. To begin, before we have the public hearing, I'll ask our Budget Director to give us a brief summary of the budget, if you would, Mr. Toomey.
Good evening, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem Burke, and members of the council. I'll just give a very brief overview of the budget. The budget has been reviewed in many budget workshops held by the Finance Committee. The overall total proposed FY 2019 through 20 budget is $496.4 million, and that includes all funds. It's broken down by operations, debt service, and capital fund. The overall budget decreases by 6.3%, and the operations budget increases by 1.5%. When you look at the overall budget on the expenditure side, our largest area for expenditures is an environmental health service area. That includes water and sewer, stormwater management, sanitation, and our second largest area is public safety, and that is our police, fire, and emergency management departments. On the revenue side, our major source of revenue when we look at all funds is charges for services, and followed by property taxes at almost 30%. So overall budget highlights: there is no tax increase for operations. There is a 4-cent increase for voter-approved bonds that was voted on this past November. That will increase our tax rate to 63.74 cents per $100 of assessed value. For employee compensation, we are implementing a full-year impact of the market pay study that was implemented this past April. There's a 2% supplemental pay for public safety employees. That'll be effective January 1st of 2020. There's no merit increase built into the budget for general employees and all employees, including public safety. And there's an increased cost to employee retirement benefits that we budgeted for $1.7 million increase. We're also increasing the minimum wage to $13 per hour, and that is an increase from $12.50 per hour this current year. Under user fees, there's no increase in landfill tipping fees. There's a slight increase in the water and sewer residential base charges of $1.02 per month, and there's a slight increase in a yard cart fee by $5. It'll increase from $60 to $65. And that is it.
Thank you very much. Any questions, Ms. Toomey? I think we've been through it enough there. This is a public hearing, and Towanda Roebuck signed up first.
Good evening, Mayor,
Good evening.
Mayor Pro Tem, City Council members.
Good evening.
It's a pleasure to be here this afternoon. Many of you know me. I'm Towanda Roebuck. My address is 3480 Dominion Street. I'm the Director of Experiment and Self-Reliance. I will be brief. Thank you is a word that's way not big enough for the support that we have received over the years from the city. We walk side by side with you in serving the residents here in Winston-Salem. We're very proud of our core programs. One of the programs that we are just most excited about is the recent completion of our tax season, VITA EITC. We did over 4,500 taxes for free in 9 locations throughout the city. Hundreds of volunteers were recognized just today for their efforts in coming to help us prepare those taxes for our residents. We're very excited that the universities locally, both at Winston-Salem State, Wake Forest, Salem, and Forsyth Tech, have students in the accounting programs to help us prepare taxes. It's a wonderful learning lab, and we're very excited for the things that go on within our tax program. Our first-time home ownership program is one of those that's very successful in helping people be first-time homeowners. We've added a new component that specifically deals with economic development and aiding individuals to develop small businesses. So that's really an exciting voyage in terms of helping people. If you think about the targeted population of the people that we serve, they're the working poor, striving to be more successful, growing their families. Another new program that you may or may not know about is we provide case management for 4 of the elementary schools in our city: Forest Park, Easton, Peachtree, and Ashley. We are doing case managements for the parents of those children in the schools. We're helping them to get jobs, keep a job, do right, stop going to the school and showing out, but let us have an understanding of how you can be an advocate on behalf of your child at the schools. So we're walking side by side with you, helping to serve the homeless. Just recently, we added an additional component to help serve many of our residents that might be homeless. So again, the word thank you is way not big enough for all the work that we do working side by side with you each and every day. Thanks a lot for giving me the opportunity to speak this evening.
Thank you, Ms. Roebuck. Thank you. Councilman Burke.
Yes, Ms. Roebuck, I really know we don't have time tonight because other folks are going to speak. But when I was at your celebration and you talked about the different things that ESR has started and other people are now using them, other agencies, ESR, not because I was on your board, has done a tremendous job. And I will say, when it comes to training, when you were having that program, training individuals how to be good home people, how to keep homes looking nice, and how to be on time, how to pay their bills, that was one of the most excellent programs, and you trained them very well.
Thank you, Dr. Burke. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Phillip Summers.
Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening. Good evening.
I'm Phillip Summers of 2422 Peachtree Street. I was nervous on the cold January night in 2017 when I first stood up to advocate for public transportation here at City Hall. The video shows the public outcry from the newly redesigned bus routes. Riders were grateful that service was restored to Columbia Heights Extension neighborhood that night, and other simple route modifications were garnered. Through coalition building and policy advocacy, we were successful in expanding night and weekend service on more routes, getting routes into Google Maps to improve wayfinding and trip planning, and creating a short film to educate the public. We also conducted a rider survey. I'm going to give you guys a handout of this so you can have all these links to these different resources. But what used to be just research to me has become more personal as I've become a bus driver, and I get to daily see the power of public transportation. I get to see how it takes people to community gardens, how it gets them to grocery stores and to work and school and to health care. There's a new study out from this region that shows that 40% of households have access to one or fewer cars. So I'm trying to paint a picture that it's a growing segment of people that are going to rely more and more on public transportation. I have a lot of questions about why systems such as class privilege, privatization of government services, economic globalization, and racism affect how we deliver public transportation services locally. I don't understand why we allow transportation to flourish in the hand of the car owner and suffer for all their users. So I have 5 recommendations that I'm going to leave a copy here, and it's on my blog, blindspot.city, but they're simply, we need to do a better job cleaning the Clark Campbell Transit Center because it's at the center of our city and it represents how people think about public transportation. We need to improve the bus fleet. When we're leaking oil, the environment suffers, and our handicapped passengers often get passed up when our wheelchair lifts don't work. We need to expedite the installation of shelters so that the riders feel like their experience on public transportation matters. We need to add more routes with 30-minute frequency so people can have more time to get to their destination, more time to get home and be with their families. They're spending less time in traffic when you have 30-minute frequencies, less time in transit. And finally, we need to ensure health care for our workers. So I don't have health care. I'm a part-time employee, and it's not really clear when I will have it. So I think as a society, as we face pressures of bank mergers, global acquisitions, and healthcare consolidation, those are all things that we're facing here. I understand that there's a lot of pressure. Improving public transit's evidence-based intervention that will help a lot of people, so it's a good public investment. So I stood up in the budget time just to say the money you spend on public transit is money well spent.
Thank you, Ms. Summers. Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard on the budget? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing on the budget closed. Well, now we'll get into the balance of the items related to the budget. We'll start with item G2.
Item G2, annual appropriation and tax levy ordinance for the city of Winston-Salem for the fiscal year 2019-2020.
I recognize the chairman of the Finance Committee, Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Mayor. I move to approve the annual appropriation and tax levy ordinance for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina for the fiscal year 2019-20, which sets the tax rate at 63.74 cents per 100 of assessed value and a tax rate of 9 cents per 100 of assessed value for property owners within the downtown Winston-Salem Business Improvement District.
Second.
Motion and second. Is there any discussion? Councilor Bessie, did you have a...
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This proposed budget includes a number of positives for our city, and I'd like to be able to support it. Unfortunately, it also includes one major gap, which, if not corrected, will, I believe, result in a serious long-term problem. It fails to provide any opportunity for a merit pay increase for Winston-Salem City employees this year. Of our approximately 2,452 city employees, 1,520 will receive no pay increase this fiscal year. Meanwhile, our peer cities in North Carolina are providing merit pay increases for their employees at an average of 3% or higher. Greensboro, High Point, and Charlotte are all providing 3%. Durham is providing 4% for general employees and 5% for police and fire. Winston-Salem is just completing a multi-year process of climbing out of a steep employee pay hole, which saw us failing to keep multiple key city employee positions adequately staffed, in part because we couldn't retain all our skilled and experienced employees in departments like police, where we'd train great officers, and then after a couple of years, many would leave for better pay in other cities. It was also in part because we couldn't even get qualified applicants in a number of positions like equipment operators, because they could make too much more in the local private market. We still can't hire all the engineers we need and for which we have positions. If we pass this budget without any employee merit pay raises, we will immediately start to fall back into that hole. We cannot afford to sit still with no progress because our competitor peer cities, including the ones next door in Guilford County, are not sitting still. In a moment, I'll make a motion to address that problem. If that motion passes, I'll be able to support the budget. If it fails, I will make a second motion addressing an equity issue regarding elected official salaries. If both fail, I will vote no on the budget. My first motion, I move to amend the annual appropriation and tax levy ordinance for fiscal year 2019-2020 to A, provide a 2% average annual merit salary increase for all employee positions effective August 2019, and B, increase the general property tax rate by 1 additional cent to pay for the additional expense.
Is there a second to the motion? Hearing no second, the motion fails for thing.
Thank you. Since my first motion failed, I will address the second budget issue regarding elected official salaries. As part of the second stage of implementing the recommendation of Winston-Salem's recent pay disparity study in April, City Council members received a significant salary increase of, per annum, $6,755. That represented an approximately 59% salary increase for City Council members. My colleagues have supported this change on the technically correct grounds that our City Council pay level was substantially lower than most of our other peer cities in the state. However, I believe that when compared to the pay increases available to other Winston-Salem city employees, the size of the increase was and remains disproportionate. For that reason, I declined the increase at that time and will continue to decline it if it remains in the budget. I was prepared to stop there. However, this proposed budget confirms that disproportionate increase for council members while denying a modest average merit pay increase to rank-and-file city employees. I believe that is inconsistent, and I cannot support it. Therefore, I move to amend the annual appropriations and tax levy ordinance for fiscal year 2019-2020 to reset the salary levels for mayor and city council members to the level effective before the market pay adjustment took place in April of this year.
Is there a second? Hearing no second, the motion fails. I recognize Councilman Adams, Vice Chair of the Finance Committee.
Yes, this budget, I think we did a good job. Again, the world changes, and I wish that all of us, as well as other elected officials, could just wave a magic wand and make everything the way everybody wants it. The one thing that this council did after the 14 bonds, we replicated what we did with wanting to put another bond in place in 18. We asked the people to vote on it and tell us what they wanted, with the understanding that there would be a tax increase for the bonds. But this council committed itself to ensuring that we would not raise any other parts of the taxes except those for the bonds. In this bond, again, I think we did a good job. Everything's not perfect, but as the budget director said, there was no tax increase outside of the bond tax, and we gave $3 million plus to nonprofits. And I know there are a lot of people that don't want us to do that either. But as we move forward as a city, again, we welcome all of the engagement and suggestions from our citizens. We had all these workshops and public hearings and everywhere that, again, we're doing what we think is the big picture. So with that, mayors and the members of the council, I'll be supporting this budget.
Thank you. Any other comments? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. Motion passes 7 in favor, 1 against. Item G3.
Item G3, project budget ordinance for the city of Winston-Salem for fiscal year 2019-2020.
Again, recognize Councilmember Clark.
I move to approve the project budget ordinance for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina for the fiscal year 2019-2020.
Second. Motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that passes unanimously. Thank you. Item G4.
Item G4, motion to excuse Councilmember Taylor from voting on items G5 and items G6.
Is there a motion?
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That's unanimous. Councilmember Taylor, you're excused from voting on items G5 and G6. Item G5.
Item G5, annual appropriation and tax levy ordinance for the city of Winston-Salem for fiscal year 2019-2020 advertising fund.
Move for approval. Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. And anyone opposed, vote no. Councilmember Taylor will be excused. Thank you. That passes 7 in favor, 1 excused. Item G6.
Item G6, project budget ordinance for the city of Winston-Salem for fiscal year 2019-2020 advertising fund.
Councilmember Clark.
I move to approve the project budget ordinance for advertising and select books, magazines, and periodical budgets for the city of Winston-Salem, North Carolina for the fiscal year 2019-2020.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. Vote no. And that passes 7 in favor, Councilmember Taylor being excused. Item G7.
Item G7, resolution approving the capital plan for fiscal years 2019-2020 through 2024 through 2025 as a financial planning guide.
Councilman Clark.
I move to approve a resolution approving the capital plan for the fiscal years 2019, 2020 through 2024, 2025 as a financial planning guide.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item G8.
Item G8, resolution amending Article 1 of the City of Winston-Salem Personnel Resolution, clarifying provisions of the Code of Conduct relating to conduct unbecoming a city employee, and revising the drug and alcohol testing policy for applicants and employees, and amending Article 2 to increase the minimum hourly rate of pay and add and revise certain position classifications and make technical adjustments to pay plans.
Councilman Clark.
I move to approve a resolution amending Article 1 of the City of Winston-Salem Personnel Resolution, clarifying provisions of the Code of Conduct relating to conduct unbecoming of a city employee, and revising the drug and alcohol testing policy for applicants and employees, and amending Article 2 to increase the minimum hourly rate of pay, add and revise certain position clarifications, and make technical adjustments to pay plans.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item G9.
Item G9, resolution authorizing an interlocal agreement between the City of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County for grant funds to support the District Attorney's Domestic Violence Unit.
Councilman Clark.
I move to approve a resolution authorizing an interlocal agreement between the City of Winston-Salem and Forsyth County for grant funds to support the District Attorney's Domestic Violence Unit.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item G10.
Item G10, ordinance amending Chapter 26, Garbage and Trash, Article 1 in general.
Councilman Clark.
I move to approve adoption of amendment to Chapter 26, Section 26-3G of the Winston-Salem City Code bulk container and other receptacles relating to yard waste collection for the fiscal year 2019-2020.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. And that is unanimous. Thank you. Thank you, Councilman Clark, and members of the Finance Committee and members of the Council. Councilman Clark.
Yeah, just say a quick word. I want to thank everyone. We had very good attendance at all our special meetings, not just of the Finance Committee, but of all the folks up here. And to echo just a few things Miss Adams says, the voters did approve a 4-cent tax increase to pay for the 2018 bonds, and that's about an 8% increase. And I challenged the staff to see if we could hold the line on everything else. And that's not to say there aren't a lot of good things we could do with additional money, but I think there is a balance to how much we can ask the taxpayers to do each year. And I think an 8% increase in 1 year is asking a lot. And but I thank everybody for working hard on it. And budgets are kind of like sausage. You don't want to see it made, but you like the end product. But I'm pleased with what we did and look forward to moving forward with it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Clark. Councilman Burke.
Yes. Last year, I asked the city manager to look seriously at helping to supplement elderly people who are on incomes, and their incomes are not meeting the needs of having their homes repaired and doing various kinds of things. I thought we were going to try to put it in the budget to do something like this because they have been taxpayers for years. And then I found out, because I was very impressed, I'd been talking about it, but I was impressed with the councilman in Charlotte, North Carolina, where he initiated, and I believe Mr. City Manager, did theirs pass or not?
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem Burke. I believe that Mecklenburg County has approved an incentive for senior citizens.
Now, senior citizens, and I'm so glad I've lived to be a senior citizen, if somebody will not speak for senior citizens, sometimes us who think we're at such a nice age that we don't have the patience and the understanding, and we're quick with senior citizens. Some of us senior citizens have been blessed. We can well take care of ourselves financially. We do not have to worry about how people mistreat us because maybe we can't get this done to our home, or when we go into various places, how we want help, and then some of us in these jobs getting our tax dollars, whether it's city, county, state, or national, have little short attitudes and behavior, and I do not like it. So then I asked the city manager, what are we really doing to show senior citizens in this city that we appreciate what they have done? And Miss Tony gave me a list, and Miss Tony, what I want you to do with this list to make sure each elected official will get this list, and I would hope that Mr. City Manager, our marketing department, will make them aware of some things that they can do. For instance, when we have handicapped people, they have to get a ramp. Some of these people charge over $2,000 and $3,000 to do a ramp. I had a lady who lives in a place, and she said, I can't get out. I just got out of the hospital. I need a handicap ramp. I said, well, let me start looking. So I called somebody, and it was over $2,600. So I called the Shepherd people, and I asked them what could they do to put a ramp, and they put one for $800 and some dollars. So they are on the list. They do a lot of different things, but some are on the list, and some of your community agencies here, they too, I could throw them in the same basket with attitudes and behavior and how they talk to our senior citizens and the poor. So I would like for this council, mayor, and the council members to seriously look at us being more structured in how we help, because if they don't know about this list, they don't get the service. And some of them who are handicapped, just as the gentleman talked about the transportation, he talked about when the ramp is not working, that they cannot get on the bus. Now, you all know that's a disgrace and a shame. Mm-hmm. When you go down to that transportation and you see chewing gum all on the streets and how dirty it is. I've been talking to this city about that matter. So what you're telling us is not anything new. It's just being ignored by this city. And I feel, mayor and city council, we who are downtown, we see people suffering. This city manager, you hear what I'm saying. And I think this list that we do give to help senior citizens should be more accountable. I asked Ms. Tony, I said, you need to tell me really how much percentage of people are really using. And in this report, I don't know if you were able to put that in there or not. It's in there. So when the rest of us get it, if you have any suggestions or recommendations for Ms. Tony and for city manager how we can do a better job, I would appreciate it.
Okay. Thank you, Councilman Burke. The council will now go to the balance of the general agenda, which is comprised of the following items. There is an item confirming the assessment roll, an item regarding land acquisition. There's an item amending the city code, as well as the public comment period. The item confirming the assessment roll is a public hearing, and when this public hearing is called, persons in the council chamber will be given an opportunity to speak. We'd ask that you limit your comments to 3 minutes. So we now go to item G11, please.
Item G11, public hearing on resolution confirming assessment roll for the demolition of housing unfit for human habitation.
This is a public hearing. Is there anyone in the council chamber who wishes to be heard on this proposed assessment roll? All right, seeing no one, I'll declare the public hearing closed and would recognize, I guess, Councilman Adams is coming out of your committee.
Yes, Mayor, members of the council, I move that we approve G11 public hearing, for the confirming the assessment roll for demolition of housing unfit for human habitation.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor of the motion, please indicate by voting yes. Anyone opposed, vote no. That is unanimous. Thank you. Item G12.
Item G12, resolution authorizing acquisition of a vacant lot on Bethel Methodist Church Lane for a new fire station. Finance and Public Safety Committees forwarded this item to council with 3 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstaining.
I asked our Fire Chief, Chief Mayo, if he would maybe make a brief comment about this proposed new fire station and the location.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Madam Mayor Pro Tem, members of the council.
Good evening. I have an abbreviated edition of the slides that we looked at Public Safety and Finance last week. If I can speak better from those, if I'm using those as notes, if that's okay with you.
Yes, sir. Please do.
So what you see here is, if you remember that the areas in red are areas we cannot reach within 4 minutes traveling from a fire station. All the pastel colors are 4 minutes traveling from existing fixed facilities. So what I've shown you here is this area. So I forget that you're not looking at the same thing up there. I know you're looking at it there, but we're not looking at it in the same place. So down in the southwest at about your 7 o'clock position, there is an area there in the Burke Mill area that is the place where we go a lot, but we can't get there very easily, where those two lines cross. And I'm going to show you that in the next slide enlarged. So what you see here is historic requests for service from January of 14 through March of 17. All the yellow dots in there are requests for service, and you can see there are a bunch in that what is now gray area where we cannot reach in 4 minutes traveling. And if you were to drill down far enough, the map just gets so fuzzy you can't see it. But a lot of those are stacked, not right on top of one another, but they're piled in there. There are more there than what it appears to be, even at this level of resolution. So next slide, same map, back to the pastels. That's the 4 minute travel areas, the gray areas where we can't reach in 4 minutes. And what you see here is the occupancy vulnerability assessment profile. We abbreviate that OVAP. That's a tool we use that we input the type of building, how many people are in it, how ambulatory those people are, what they do in the building. Is the building equipped with fire sprinklers? Do they have hazardous materials stored in the buildings? Those sorts of things. And I looked this morning, and so what's answering the engines that are answering around this gray area now, up at your about 11 o'clock position is engine 10 on Jonestown. At your 2 o'clock position, 1:30 position is engine 6 on Academy. At the 4 o'clock position is engine 16 on Pope Road, and then at 8 o'clock is engine 2 on Somerset. And in those areas, see, because these red dots are not in pastels now, we still provide service in those areas. We just can't get there, so that's why it's not shaded on a pastel. But in those 4 engine company territories together, there are about 1,300 occupancies that garner a risk assessment of moderate or higher. So that's what you see populated there in red. Now I'll take you to the heat map, and what you see here is in the blue is where concentration of calls start to show up, and the closer it gets to red, the higher the concentration of calls. And there you can see that bullseye area right there in that gray, the area that has been gray and red in previous maps. There's the subject lot on Bethel Methodist Church Lane off of Burke Mill Road. I'm going to back you out, and you'll see it in the center, right dead center of the screen. So you see the lot there, and this is just to give you an idea of how built up that area of the city is. Take you back to the first map, show you the red area again, down at your 8 o'clock position. So if we place that fire station on Bethel Methodist Church Lane there at 2110 Bethel Methodist Church Lane, that's how good of a job we do in covering that area that we're not getting to. You're seeing that proposed home territory 13. This will be, if we're successful with this project, this will be Fire Station 13, and you see it now in orange. And really, the only reason we don't get all the red there is because there's not a street down there, not a road for us to get down in the very south part of that area, that red area. And we look for a while. We use Map for Scythe. We use a number of tools. And finally, we were able to find this lot through we had Google Earth on one monitor and Forsyth GIS on the other monitor, and we just looked for open space for several days, and we were able to find this lot. In that orange area that I just showed you, this is a slide that Councilmember McIntosh asked about last Monday night, and I expressed my concern that there was an anomaly, that we were running about twice as many fire calls as we were medical calls, and that is not what you would expect. We started tracking medical calls differently about 6 months ago, and the report had not been updated to be congruent with the way we're tracking medical calls, so we fixed the report. You'll see here 1,888 requests for service in that orange area. So on the day that this engine goes in service, it will immediately be the 6th busiest engine in the city. That's what kind of call volume we're talking about out there in that area. There you see the stats in terms of type of call, and again you see that 4-minute travel time that we're looking for at the 90th percentile. We're only doing it about 31% of the time out there. Take you back to the heat map, and I want you to notice, please, back at your 10:30 or 11 o'clock position, station 10 on Country Club, at your 1:30 or 2 o'clock position, 6 on Academy, at your 4 o'clock position, 16 on Pope Road, and then back over here at 8 o'clock, Station 2 on Somerset. So you can see there's a hole, just optically you can look and see that there's a hole in the coverage area. I pulled some additional data for you this morning. We track a statistic that is known as reliability. What reliability shows is when a fire company gets a call, what percentage of the time are they available to take that call, or are they unavailable for some reason, typically because they're already on a call and some other company has to answer from out of their territory, which of course extends the travel time and the total response time. So Station 2 on Somerset, that's a 2-company station. There's an engine and a ladder in there, so that's not as much of a concern. But 610 and 16, the other engines that are answering around this area, for all 3 of those companies, their reliability is below 85%. The Fire Service Accreditation Model, which was a culmination of efforts between the International Association of Fire Chiefs and the International City County Managers Association, when your reliability gets to 85%, they start prompting you to do something to get the availability of those fire companies back up. And you can see there for the year that we ran the data, which was last year from May 1st to April 30th. From May 30th May 1st last year to April 30th of this year, almost 1,000 calls missed by what should have been the first due company because they were tied up on other calls. So I'll remind you from our discussion last week, this lot is owned by Bethel United Methodist Church. The fire station, as part of the plan all along, is for this fire station to have a space in it to be used for training and meeting space by the fire department. We have a small space like this at 7 on Arbor Road. We also were able to work in a small training and meeting space at Station 8 on the Knoll, to the newest, really truly new fire station we have. Budgets and lot size were not able to accommodate what we really wanted in those stations, but here planning with budget, having a lot big enough to accommodate that space. The church was agreeable to selling us that lot at a price below market value in exchange for being able to use that training and meeting space on occasion to hold some church functions. You know, the lot is, I don't know, 500 or 600 feet away from the sanctuary door of the church. So I'll stop there and take questions.
Any questions, Chief Mayo? Thank you very much, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Good job.
Thank you.
All right, Councilman Adams.
I don't have any questions, but I got to go back to the meeting, committee meeting last week. Councilmember Larson, again, I have no issue with building a fire station in your ward. None. Your residents deserve it. But I do have an issue with this next move we're going to make. I'd like to see this issue sent back to committee, Mayor and members of the council. When we start talking about entering agreements with churches and nonprofits, I have no problem with that. But we need to understand with our city attorney as to if this is going to be the norm, how do we make sure everybody else in the community gets a fair shot? If this is what our next model or branding is, that instead of building recreation centers, we'll build community centers in conjunction with our public safety, police and fire stations and substations. That's all I'm saying, but that's what I'd like to see, Mayor.
Without objection, we would send it back to Finance and Public Safety. Councilman Clark?
Yeah. I support Ms. Adams' concerns. I think it's a great place for a fire station, and I think we're lucky to find the land. Let me say that first of all. But I have concern with a perpetual agreement with a private organization, and I am concerned about the precedent it sets if we're going to say we're going to build the fellowship halls for a church. Also tied with this, if and I don't know that much about the South Ward, but if they are in need of a community center, I don't think this is a place we want a community room, given that you got fire trucks coming in and out. The closest thing I have is at South Fork. It's a rec center. It has no basketball court or swimming pool. It does have a few tennis courts, but we have a large room that is used at least once a day, if not 2 to 3 times a day. And I can't imagine that being situated with a fire station. I got everything from bridge groups to square dance lessons to this, that, and the other. And I just don't think the two mix together. And I support another look at this.
Okay. Is there any objection to send it back to committee? Is there any objection? Do you have objection?
Yes, I would sort of like to comment on this.
Well, if we're going to, there's no use to debate it here tonight if we're going to send it back to committee is my point. So if you want us to vote on it, we will.
I would prefer that we voted as proposed tonight and not send it back to
all right.
committee.
Councilman Adams would offer a motion to refer this back to committee.
Yes.
And I'll second it.
And motion is second. Councilman Bessie wants to comment on that motion.
Yes, I'd like to discuss. I'm concerned with delaying construction of this station. As noted by the chief, this does fill the largest single timely response gap in the city, and I note that we don't meet in July. I wondered if we could move this forward via approval of the proposal absent that special provision. And then send that question back to committee for discussion. And if the questions of the concerned council members are met, we could bring forward an amendment. But otherwise, let the deal continue to progress absent that provision.
Right. I would just ask the question: can we do that because the purchase includes the discounted price with the church? The city manager?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I think since the purchase price was negotiated at the church's request, not at the city's request, to discount it, I think we would have to go back to the church and see if we could arrange a different price that does not include any use of the facility. Indeed, I don't see how we could tonight agree unless the council was authorizing us to purchase it at full price and see what the church would do.
Yeah. I certainly appreciate what Councilman Bessie is trying to do there, but I don't believe it's possible.
Well, I would be prepared to make a motion that we authorize a renegotiation and the purchase to go forward with an up to the additional $75,000 if that's what's necessary to acquire it without the special provision.
Okay. So do you want to make that motion then?
I would move that as a substitute. And then that way, that would give the committee the opportunity to discuss further the questions raised by our colleagues.
So as I understand, your motion is to go forward with the purchase of the property at full appraised value, not at the
minus
71.
Yes, I'd move that.
Is there a second?
Oh, second. Yeah, I'd second that.
Motion second. All right, Councilmember Larson, I'll let him it's his ward.
Yes.
I'll let him discuss.
Let me just comment a little bit because I think we're getting a little off track. The room that's being discussed as a community room was actually in the plan from the start as a training classroom for the fire department. And it's only as a result of the congregation looking for additional space that they can meet, that the idea of maybe overlapping the two came in place. If there's objections on the part of this council to have a training classroom in this facility for the fire department, I need to hear that fairly early in these discussions, because I think the secondary uses proposed by by the church is sort of an add-on that came in the property negotiation discussions as an opportunity to double up on that space.
All right, we do have a substitute motion to approve the purchase of the property at the full appraised value.
And I will be sure the substitute motion specifically states there will be no contract with the church.
Yeah. All right.
With regard to the meeting use.
Yeah.
Right. Anything like that would come back.
Yes.
All right. Everybody understand the motion? All those in favor of the substitute motion, please indicate by voting yes. And that's unanimous. Thank you, Councilor Bessie, for the substitute.
Thank you very much.
Item G13.
Item G13, ordinance amending Chapter 38, Article 1, Section 3810I of the Winston-Salem City Code to allow state and/or federal wildlife officers to discharge rifles for the purpose of eliminating deer within the boundaries of Smith Reynolds Airport. Public Safety Committee forwarded this item to council with 3 in favor, none opposed, and 1 abstaining.
Councilman Taylor, I know you abstained on this item. Do you wish your Vice Chairman to make a motion?
I'd like to have the Vice Chairman to make a motion.
Okay.
So moved.
Okay.
I have to read the whole thing?
If I can get second in this.
There you go. All right, we do have a motion and a second. Second. All right, just a second.
Second.
All right, great. Councilman Clark.
I thought we already had a provision to shoot the deer at the airport.
With
We
shotgun.
don't? With shotgun. What's the difference here?
Rifle.
Right. Okay.
Any discussion?
I would have just liked to have
Councilman
seen, thank you, Mayor. I won't talk long. I would have liked to have seen the opportunity to have more public input about this issue, especially in the community surrounding the airport. It is in your ward, but I have the right to.
No, I'll speak to her now.
Yes, ma'am. I mean, with all due respect, I'm
Go
a
ahead,
community.
Councilman Taylor, you have the floor.
Thank you, sir. Again, I would like to have the opportunity to have a little more input with the communities around it. I understand the need to sort of curtail the deer population. I think it makes sense to protect, the residents who are using the planes, the owner of the planes, and the equipment at the airport. But I think we've got to do it at the same time while protecting the community. They can already shoot shotguns there, but I think when you add rifles and suppressors without notifying the community, that does give me a little bit of cause for concern. So because of that, I don't think this is a bad proposal. But I think absent the community input, it's hard for me to support this item at this time.
Councilman Burke.
Yes, did we have public input? Did we make them aware? Remember when you had a conversation with me when Mr. Taylor could not come to that particular meeting, and we postponed the meeting until a later time, but my understanding that there was a communication through Mr. Mark Davidson with the residents.
Mayor Pro Tem, in our conversations and with the conversations with the airport, my understanding from you was that the plan was going to be before, any weekend before they actually did deer harvesting with rifles, they were going to notify the community that week.
Councilman Adams.
To this point, I agree with Councilmember Taylor, as well as the Mayor Pro Tem, that you can't just tell people the week before you're getting ready to shoot rifles that this is what's going to be going on in your community. I agree with Councilmember Taylor that we need to pull this back and make sure that everybody in the community around that airport understands what is getting ready to happen and why.
Councilman Burke.
Mayor, members of the council, I'm going to ask that this go back into the committee for discussion. And while we're doing this, Councilman Scipio, your area should be contacted too then, since the airplanes fly over and they will get involved. Now, I've had a lot of conversation with the people concerning the airport. It's not as if though no one has spoken to them about the concerns there. But to make these people happy, we'll just move it back.
All right, without objection, we refer it back to the Public Safety Committee. Without objection. All right, that'll go back to Councilman Taylor's committee. Item G14.
Item G14, public comment period.
This is a time once per month that the City Council and I invite members of the public to address us on matters that are germane to city government. We limit this to 30 minutes, and we ask that individuals who are speaking to give their name and address for the record, as well as to limit your comments to 3 minutes. First person signed up is Mr. Phillip Summers.
Thank you. Phillip Summers, 2422 Peachtree Street. Thanks for 2-for-1, chance to address you guys twice. I have a lot of issues. I like bikes, but I see public transit as a real important issue locally. I came to that conclusion through doing research and talking with people when I was at the Wake Forest School of Medicine. What I want to kind of put a finer point on tonight is it feels like we fall through the cracks. So even today, when I was calling 311 to say, as a transit rider, because I still ride the bus to the South Ward, like just because I work there doesn't mean I'm not a rider too, and I'm a citizen. And I said, there's so many cigarette butts. Like I have photo after photo of cigarette butts in our transit facility. And they said, oh, well, that's not our facility. Worcester has to take care of that. And then Worcester says, oh, that's the city facility, and the person's sick, and they're not cleaning up. And there's just all these cracks that it feels like the bus riders fall through. And I just want a real champion to say, this reflects our city. Maybe it's the downtown partnership, something where we could be proud of how our buses work. So I really am not trying to be a bully. I'm just trying to say I really care about this issue. And it's hard because it seems to fall through so many different cracks. I do think that this is about primary prevention. So maybe that's too fancy of a word, but this is like keeping people well. We're trying to reduce poverty. We're trying to help people get to jobs. We're trying to get them to preventive care, not be so sick that they take the ambulance to the hospital. And so it just strikes me, because I've been to several of these meetings, that the police chief is always here, the fire chief is always here, but hardly anybody is here from transit. I mean, I think you've had 5 different transit planners over the 9 years I've lived in town. We got to figure out some way to say this is a day in, day out issue that affects a large portion of our population. And until we get our handle on it, we're going to be at the bottom of the list for things like economic mobility. So I really think you're going to spend your money well when you invest in public transit.
Thank you, Mr. Summers. Joanne Allen.
Joe Allen, P.O. Box 284-27102. First of all, let me just say that every time I come here, and I've been coming since 2014, and sure enough, some of you are new faces on this board and everything. Some of you have been here a very long time. And I hate that Ms. Burke has left at this point of time as well. First of all, Winston-Salem is my home. I didn't come to Winston-Salem and make it my home. It is my home. And I think that's why I'm more passionate about what is going on and the things that you all haven't done and the things that you have done to Winston-Salem. Winston-Salem used to be ranked #1 in the state of North Carolina. Now we're hovering somewhere around 5th, 6th, okay? And we can't put that all on R.J. Reynolds and Sarah Lee and Haynes Brand and the airport or any of those things. My great aunt, who passed away 10 years ago at the age of 97 here in Winston-Salem, told me a long time ago, sometimes people live a long time, not because they've done great or good things, but because it's a time for them to finish amending and repenting. That's what she told me, okay? So, and I hate that, certain individuals have gotten up and left. Let me also say that I have to shake my head because right now we have 8, and we've had 8 Democrats and 1 Republican for many years. But look at our city. Because I don't know what city you all live in, But I'm here to tell you that it must be two Winston-Salems, because you all are not living in the city that I'm living in and the things that I see. Because to listen to all of you all up here, it sounds like Winston-Salem is just on top of things. We're doing fantastic. We're doing great. The people have really done an outstanding job. So I'm talking about you all patting yourself on the back and everything. That's not the case. We need to get a backbone, the ones of you all who don't have it, and we need to step up to the plate. I know you don't like some of the things that I say. You think that I'm criticizing you. I'm not criticizing you. I'm holding you accountable for the things that you all haven't done and the things that you have done. It is a difference. Okay? Right now, looking at everyone, I'm looking at Crystal Towers right now. And all I can say is that it's a shame on what you all have allowed this city to do to our people. Thank you.
Mackenzie Gates Allen, please.
Mackenzie Cates Allen, 3490 Pigeon Ridge Drive, Winston-Salem. Good evening, Mayor, esteemed council members. I am not from here. I choose to live here. I love this city. There are many, many things that we need work on, but this is a great city, and everybody up here loves this city, and I recognize that, and I'm proud to be a part of this city. I want to thank you, actually, for believing in the mission of the Winston-Salem ambassadors to welcome all and to elevate Winston-Salem regionally and nationally. I wanted to let you know that I actually taught a class tonight on local government 101, and thanks to City of Winston-Salem University and to your openness and transparency, I was not only knowledgeable, but I was confident in advocating for truly the opportunity to have an impact through city government. And one of the young ladies who was at my class tonight decided to come for the first time ever to city council, so she's here tonight. And it's truly the privilege and uniqueness of the Winston-Salem ambassadors that we can inform people of this. Additionally, in our growing role as representatives of Winston-Salem, I have been asked by young families who live downtown to advocate for Marshall Park to be more family-friendly. They are desperate for a park for residents with kids, and they feel they're not being heard or informed necessarily. And lastly, though the numbers may not be there for the light rail or rail, there is a huge interest in the light rail in the community, as well as by the owner of the Carolina Panthers, which I'm sure you guys saw. And I just want to say thank you, as always, for listening. It really is a pleasure to have you as our elected officials. And the motto of our city, it's there behind the screen. It says, Urbs Candida Adjuvando, which means a city founded on cooperation. And I look forward to serving our city with you. And we do need ambassadors, so just keep that out there in the community. And thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to be heard during our public comment period? Seeing no one, I'll declare the public comment period ended, and I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? We adjourn.